Destiny, you might have been asking yourself, what is revival? What is this revival that they talk about every Sunday? You know, I have a few definitions that I want to share with us. I got some from Google and some definitions from men that have seen revival in history. First definition from Google: revival is an improvement in the condition or strength of something. The second definition: an instance of something becoming popular, active, or important again. For example, in a church, if prayer hasn't been popular and men and women begin to pray, and there's an interest in prayer, drawing the circle, and all this, we can say we are beginning to see a revival of prayer. Something becomes popular, something becomes active, something becomes important again. Revival can also be a reawakening of religious fervor. I want to jump and share more definitions. Someone says revival brings back to life the people of God from a state of slumber and apathy. Revival is also seen as the restoration of the church itself to a vital and fervent relationship with God after a period of moral decline. I want to jump into Christian history and share the definition of revival from some men that actually were used in revival, men like Charles Finney. But I'll start with J. Odwin R. He says that times of refreshing from the presence of the Lord can be called revival. And his scripture reference is Acts chapter 3, verse 19. Robert Burns says that extraordinary seasons of religious interest can also be called revival. God's quickening visitation of his people, touching their hearts and deepening his work of grace in their lives. Duncan Campbell of the revival in Scotland that we talked about in another video says that revival is a community saturated with God. And I want to read one more quotation about revival by Charles Finney. He says, revival is the return of the church from her backslidings and the conversion of sinners. We'll be sharing more of these definitions about revival to bring to speed those that are still walking into the wilderness and wondering what is this revival that they are talking about every Sunday. But I also want to say that when revival comes to a people, when revival comes to a church, it affects the moral climate of a community. You know, when you look at the Welsh revival where God used a young man called Evan Roberts after he had prayed between 10 and 13 years, believing God for a revival, it changed the moral climate of Wales as a nation to the point that even the people who worked in the mines and they used the animals that would carry, they used them as beasts of labor. Their donkeys and their horses never used to listen to any other language unless the language was filled with curse words. But because these men were so affected by the revival that came into the land, they stopped using curse words, and productivity in the mines was affected because the horses took a while to adjust. The donkeys, they took a while to adjust to the new language that didn't have any curse words. So revival also changes the moral climate of a community, of a nation, of a territory, of a city, and this is what we are believing God for. God bless you.